There are some retirement mistakes you can see coming from a mile away. Things like overspending, taking too much investment risk, or starting too late. But others? They can be much harder to spot. And they don't even feel so much like mistakes. In fact, they often sound smart, responsible, and even cautious. But over time, these quiet money beliefs can lead to real consequences like higher taxes, missed opportunities, or a retirement that feels limited more than it needs to be. Hello. I'm Scott Norris. I'm an investment advisor with Royal Fund Management, and I own Nexus Financial Group. After years of working with individuals and couples approaching or living in retirement, I've noticed something very important. The biggest risk to your retirement often don't live in your portfolio. They live in your mind. Beliefs that may have served you well during your working years, but they need to shift once you've transitioned into retirement. So in this video, I want to walk you through 3 common money beliefs that sound wise, but can quietly sabotage your retirement if you're not careful. And more importantly, I want to show you what to do instead. So let's dive right in. Part 1, I should avoid touching my principal at all costs. This is one of the most deeply held beliefs I encounter in retirement planning conversations, especially with those who's worked really hard to save consistently and they've taken pride in building their wealth. The mindset goes something like this. If I can live off my interest and dividends, I'll never have to touch my savings. Preserving my principal means I'm being responsible. Spending principal feels like failure. It means I'm starting to run out of my money. On the surface, this sounds really smart and cautious. And in many cases, it's rooted in real values, responsibility, stewardship, and legacy. But here's the challenge. This mindset can actually create unnecessary pressure. It can limit your lifestyle and expose you to bigger financial risks. We're in an environment where safe interest rates are still relatively low and retirement timelines are longer than ever. So the idea of living entirely off portfolio income without touching principal often forces you in one of 2 corners. Either you chase a higher yield investment with more risk or less liquidity, or you reduce your spending below what you can afford, missing out on the lifestyle that you worked so hard to build. I've worked with clients who could absolutely afford to upgrade their lifestyle or give gifts to family, but they feel stuck because touching that principal felt like crossing a line. And here's what I want to remind you and them. I believe that the goal isn't to die with the biggest portfolio. The goal is to live a retirement that's meaningful, sustainable, and aligned with your values. That usually means using a combination of interest, dividends, and principal in a planned, tax-efficient way. Let's say your portfolio targets a long-term rate of return of 4%. Maybe 2% of that is going to come from dividends or interest. If you only spend that portion, you're leaving money on the table every year, money that could improve your quality of life. And over a 25 or 30-year retirement, that unused 1 or 2%, it really adds up. So yes, preserving wealth matters, but not to the point where it stops you from living well. The goal isn't to avoid spending principal at all costs. The goal is to use your money with intention so that it'll last and so that it serves you. Part 2, I'll just take my required minimum distributions and let everything else grow. This is something I hear all the time. If I just take my RMDs, I'll lower my tax bill. The longer the money stays in my IRA, it'll grow. And I'll tap into other assets first and let my retirement accounts ride. And on the surface, now this sounds really efficient, but here's the issue. If you're not looking at your retirement taxes over decades, you could be setting yourself up for a much larger tax bill later on. Let's break this down. If you were born between 1951 and 1959, your RMD age is 73. If you were born after 1960, it's 75. And that means the IRS requires you to take your required minimum distributions from your traditional IRAs and 401ks every year. So if you've done a great job saving and your retirement accounts continue to grow, by your mid to late 70s, those RMDs can become quite large. And what that means is potentially higher taxable income, more of your Social Security subject to tax, higher Medicare premiums, or even pushing yourself or your surviving spouse into higher tax brackets. And because RMDs are mandatory, you don't get a say in that. The government decides the amount you pay in taxes. That's why I often refer to this as the RMD tax trap. It feels responsible to delay your withdrawals, but sometimes those early retirement years, especially in your 60s, can be the perfect window to draw down those accounts intentionally. Now, why is that? It's because your income may be lower. You haven't started your Social Security yet, and you can spread those taxable withdrawals out over time. Let's take an example. Say you retire at age 62 and you plan on delaying your Social Security and your income is low. Instead of waiting, you could withdraw $30,000 to $40,000 from your IRA at a modest tax rate. You could use it to fund your lifestyle, convert some of your IRA money to a Roth to reduce future RMDs, or shift it to a brokerage account that can be more flexible later. You're being proactive at this point. The goal isn't to withdraw the minimum. The goal is to withdraw strategically in a way that manages your taxes over your entire retirement, not just this year. And that kind of planning can save you tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary taxes. Part 3, I don't want to spend too much. I might run out. This runs very deep for most people. And it's not just about the numbers, it's emotional. You've spent decades saving, living below your means, and preparing, and then retirement hits. Now you're supposed to turn around and start spending from the very accounts you've worked so hard to build. Now that shift, it just doesn't happen overnight. So what do people do? They avoid those big experiences, even when they can afford them. They delay gifts or their generosity. They live more frugally than necessary, not out of strategy, but out of fear. Let me give you an example. I was recently working with a couple who'd done everything right. They had no debt, strong savings, and a reliable income from a pension and Social Security. But even with all that in place, they were still hesitant to take a long-awaited family trip. They asked a question I hear far too often. What if I need that money later on? So we walked through their plan together, looking at all the what-if scenarios. What if the market dropped? What if one of them needed long-term care? What if inflation rose? What if one of them passed away early? And here's what their plan showed. They were more than okay. They could absolutely afford that trip. They went, and when they got back, they told me something very powerful. It wasn't just about the vacation, it was about giving themselves permission. Permission to enjoy their retirement without guilt. That's exactly what a good financial plan can provide. Not just peace of mind, but the confidence to live fully. Because here is what I believe. Most retirees don't derail their finances by being reckless. They do it by being overly cautious, but with good intentions. They try to be responsible by never touching principal. They try to be smart by only taking the required minimum distributions. They try to be careful by underspending, just in case. But over time, those beliefs can quietly shrink your freedom, and they can reduce the efficiency of your entire financial plan. That's why planning isn't just about protecting your wealth, it's about using it to support the life you actually want to live. So here's what I want you to remember. You didn't work your entire life just to be afraid of your money. A good retirement plan just isn't about protecting your assets. It's about using them wisely, confidently, and in alignment with your values. And one of the best ways to do that, align your mindset with your money. If you're not sure whether your beliefs are helping or holding you back, let's talk. Book a call with me using the link in the description below. I'll help you build a retirement income plan that's going to reflect your values. It's going to help manage your taxes, and it gives you the confidence to spend wisely and live well, because I believe retirement is a process, not an event.